Welcome back to the Sports Business Take podcast, your home for sports industry news with a little personality. I am Paul Hine. He is Zach Creekmore. How you doing today, Zach?
Doing good, Paul. How you doing, brother?
I'm great, man. We got a dub in intramural soccer, 6-5.
Yeah, we're here.
A little close, high scoring, but it was fun.
Absolutely.
I saw you got an award today, right? You traveled to Boston, right?
I went up to Samoset Resort in.
Oh, I love that place. I've been there before.
Yes, beautiful. And I was awarded I was recognized as one of the outstanding future professionals for the main AHPERD or APHERD, which was a big honor.
Awesome, dude. Is that
So
through like
all goes there?
That's awesome. Is that through like the SAC program?
So Professor Willer nominated me for it last year, and it was something that all my professors and I worked on in making an application, getting recommendation letters. So, for example, Professor Strout, Professor Don Strout, who works here, wrote me a recommendation letter and something I was able to apply for. It was cool. It was a big blessing.
That is really cool. That's going to look great on your resume.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 1 of 5 for 2023.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Get it on there.
All right. So we might as well just jump into our topics.
Let's fly.
After saying congratulations to you. All right. So on more of a lower note than what we were just talking about, the World Series just concluded, wrapped up last week, and the viewership for the World Series is the worst it's ever been. This was the least watched World Series in Major League Baseball history. It averaged, that hurts me as a baseball fan, by the way, just personally, but it averaged 9.1 million viewers on Fox. Previous low was 9.95 during the COVID season in 2020, which made sense, right? Like that was a 60-game season. Everybody was so not focused on sports, so it makes sense that would be their low. But it's a drop of 23% in viewership from last year.
Wow.
Including Game 3 being the lowest viewed game ever in World Series history at 8.13 million viewers, after Game 1 and Game 2 had set the previous records for being the lowest viewed games ever. So that means the last 4 World Series were the least watched on record. So horrible trends all the way around. What did you think when you saw this?
Well, like when I first saw Read and Heard, right, it's definitely a trending type thing for baseball that we've been on the decline since COVID hit, but also a concern of the two teams that were in the World Series. Sorry, I had to think of the name. Baseball isn't my forte, but
all good. We're also recording super late for those.
It's the Rockies and the Rangers, right? Are those the two teams?
It was the Diamondbacks and the Rangers.
Thank you. Sorry. Diamondbacks and the Rangers, Arizona.
Right division. You're good.
Yeah, I'm in there. I'm working on it. Arizona and Rangers, right?
Yeah, it was the Rangers.
Okay.
They won the World Series.
So Diamondbacks and the Rangers went and win. Great, but the visual appeal and draw of those two franchises overall, despite it being the Rangers' kind of first championship in 63 years since their founding, which is great storyline, definitely draws in hearts and eyes, especially across Texas, maybe more the southern states. But that's not going to draw in the Northeast population. It's not going to draw in those from California, unless those are major baseball fans. If you're seeing a Yankees in there, everybody in New York and Connecticut is watching the game.
Right.
It's a New York.
To put it into simpler terms, it's just two small market teams.
Correct.
And I think that was the tough part about it for the viewership, was the fact that it was two small market teams. And the Diamondbacks, well, they were, they're a very young team, so they don't have a ton of like star names that, really draw people in. And outside of maybe Corbin Carroll, who's going to win Rookie of the Year this year. But outside of that, I mean, they don't have like a lot of, I would say, interesting storylines. And so, maybe that's part of why you're seeing the viewership down the way it is. Personally, this is going to sound a little sports radio-y, but that's okay. Personally, I think if it had been the Phillies and the Rangers instead of the Diamondbacks and the Rangers, I don't think it would have been the lowest ever. I still think it wouldn't have been as good, because baseball it's at this time of year in particular is competing with football and college football, and NBA season starts up. So there's a lot of different things going on at the same time. There's a lot of different events getting eyeballs on them. So you're competing for a lot of people, right? Um, with other sports, and when you don't have at least one big market team in the World Series, it makes it tough because big market teams mean big fan bases, which means a lot of people are going to watch, which means you're going to get more money, right? Like there's just an easy correlation there, and that wasn't present in this World Series. So it's possible that that is the reason. And I want to ask you, do you think like that's the sole reason, that it was just because it was small market teams?
Um, I would never credit something like that to being the sole reason for, I guess you could say, a
Right.
poor showing in terms of viewership. I
I
would
don't
definitely
think it's the sole reason either.
no, absolutely isn't. You mentioned many other reasons, right? We're competing with sports that are grabbing more eyes and grabbing more viewers and younger viewers right now, especially with football, with basketball coming back, with soccer growing and the MLS season just kind of closing out, with the Premier League being on, and lots of other European competitions. So, especially with how the World Series is based, where, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's on every night for about a week, right?
Yeah, there's off nights for travel days, but that's about right.
Right. So it's on every night for about a week, week and a half, and every single night there is a competing event. Especially now that the NHL has also started its season,
Right,
right?
that too.
So there is so much sports being
Yeah, you're
offered.
competing with basically every other major sport.
Exactly. Right. So to as a someone who didn't watch the World Series, barely heard about it in class, right, from a conversation with Professor Dodge, and and asking me which odds I would pick for which team. I go and pick the Diamondbacks. He's like, they're 3-1 down. They go and lose the next day, right? And hey, doesn't matter, but clearly showing I have no clue what's going on. I'm having a hard time following it just because it's not that media grabber for me as a viewer. It's not what I follow.
Right.
Um,
For people who aren't like, I'm not necessarily diehard baseball fans, but for the more casual baseball fans, it's not going to be as attention grabbing when you have two small market teams like that, and especially when, um, particularly for Arizona, a lot of their players are younger and less known to maybe casual fans. Um, so I think that's a major reason. But I really wanted to ask the question: is this representative of a larger problem that MLB has with an engagement problem? Do they have an engagement problem?
mm. And it's hard to say, right? Because we're always trying to grow. Baseball has been a big innovator and has looked for innovating options, as we talked about throughout this year, with
Yeah, the
stuff with
rule
meta
changes.
and seeking that stuff. And they're definitely seeking and trying to find new avenues to grow their viewership streams because that's what something they've been struggling with. So it's definitely a trending issue where across the last 4 years we've seen it kind of decrease a little bit. And then also they're clearly recognizing that and saying, okay, we're losing revenue. We're not losing revenue, but losing viewership. So
Right,
how
you're
can
losing
we
your
address
audience.
and impact that by finding these new avenues, right? And
Right.
maybe
They
it's
changed the rules. They made a new playoff format, which is maybe part of the reason that it resulted in these two small market teams, and
mm,
that's a whole different conversation, which I honestly don't really want to get into because there's too much sports radio takes in that conversation. But
mm,
I don't know. Like to me, it's hard to say that MLB has an engagement problem when fan attendance in parks went up almost 10% this year. It was
right.
9.6% increase from last year. So that doesn't make any sense. If
Mm,
attendance in person is going up, why is online viewership down so much, right? It like do you think, like we've talked about on so many of our episodes, do you think it's just that they're competing with so many different other um, online avenues of like people's eyeballs, like that are grabbing people's attention, other sports and streaming services? I know I phrased that terribly, by the way,
No,
But
you're good.
like, do you think that it's just that they're competing with so many other different services for people's attention?
I definitely think that's a big role, right? We're competing with Instagram, social media. We're competing with TikTok, competing with YouTube. Gaming is a huge thing, right? The average kid is probably more prone to go and watch a YouTube video game video than go and watch a baseball game, right? Unless they are influenced by an outside source, whether it's them
Right,
playing the sport or their parents wanting to watch it and telling them we're going to watch the game together, right?
right.
So I think although it's excellent to see their in-game fan attendance in the stadium increases because that's huge, right? And that's really something that baseball should be targeting as a sport overall. Because no matter what, although broadcasting is going to be your biggest revenue, having those fans in the stadium is part of being able to build that desirable and building an experience and an interaction that is going to want people in there, right? Or
Yeah,
people are going to
in-person
want to be in
interactions
there, and
create
therefore
more
people are
loyal
going to want to
fans.
watch it, right?
Right, exactly. Sorry, I cut you off, but
No, you're good.
in-person interactions create more loyal fans, right? You
Mm,
have much deeper memories if you go see a event in person versus watching it on TV, right? You feel more connected to the game, and the fact that they have a higher attendance, 26 of 30 teams had a higher attendance than last season. So, like that should show you that there is engagement there, right? Like the audience is starting to see that, oh, they put in some of these new rule changes. Maybe this is a little more interesting now than it was 3 years ago because the games were getting
mm,
too long, but now they don't have that problem anymore. So I just wonder why, if they're starting to get some of their audience back, I wonder if it is just because of those small market teams and because they're competing with so many eyeballs that the viewership drops so much, because it like that's super drastic dropping.
right.
You lost a fifth of your audience, almost
Mm,
a fourth of your audience from last year. 23% is almost a fourth of your audience from last year watching the World Series. So like that's a very significant number, to the point where they have to figure out kind of why it happened and maybe address it. Maybe it's you need to advertise some more, invest some more dollars into marketing the teams once they get to the playoffs, or maybe it's you need to feature some of the star players in ads in different ways,
mm,
or just straight up find new ways to get your product out there, because or get your product out there online, that is, because if you're not having a problem in person, right, with your in-person fans, which it doesn't seem like they are, it seems like they're improving, then obviously the problem must be in the way they're approaching it online.
right. No, I agreed. I think it definitely plays a role. I think the MLB has done a great job and is currently reevaluating itself overall. And I think that's kind of a trend that
Right,
we've seen and discussed. So
right,
it's a huge part of them creating a fan experience. One, right? Then they're going to be able to market that fan experience. And then by marketing that fan experience, people are going to want to watch the games because they know people are enjoying it and it's something that they want to
right,
watch too, right? Creating social norms and exceptions where baseball becomes that thing to watch again, right? For
right,
me, and I'm going to put myself in the situation of I'm a major neutral here. I don't generally watch a baseball game, but what is going to encourage me to go and watch a baseball game? Either one, I'm hearing about this amazing season somebody's having. I want to watch this specific player and see what happens.
right,
Two, I know somebody who's wanting to watch the game. I'm wanting to hang out with that person, right?
right,
Three, I'm hearing about a team and maybe this is going to be a crazy game, going to be really cool, really high scoring because these teams have been playing really well. Or
right.
four, it's a historical rivalry and something that's connected with that, right? And
That makes
I
sense.
know when I think I go to soccer, right, there is, if I'm a neutral and I'm hearing a Champions League night, right, I am more prone to go and watch a Borussia Dortmund game than to go and watch a Barcelona versus whoever game, especially right now, right? Borussia Dortmund are in the group of death, but not only are they in the group of death with AC Milan, PSG, and Newcastle, who are all great teams, right? So it's going to be a really high level of competition. Borussia Dortmund at home builds the, I guess you could say, highest level of fan interaction. Their yellow wall is immensely well known, right? And I'm going to be watching a game where people are playing soccer, yeah, but there is a flair fest and tifo show and all this stuff that's going on behind, that's set up by the fans and done by the fans, where I can clearly see and connect with the passion that they have, right? Something that's going to draw me to that game over a boring Barcelona game where they're playing Slavia Prague in the middle of nowhere and are going to win 6-0
Right.
because and I'm going to find it boring,
Right.
right? So how can the MLB go and take and build stories through building this in stadium fan interaction that we've been talking about, where people are going to
Right.
say, I want to watch the game because I want to be part of this interaction, but I can't be there today, but I'm still going to watch the game,
Right.
right? Even
They're
as
trying to
recruits,
make it more exciting. They're like
right?
they're
And
already
it's,
on their way there.
yeah, they're clearly taking the steps toward that, but it's going to be something where maybe we see some decreases because we're changing traditional baseball, something that's been a very
Right.
traditional sport, and then we're going to see increases because we're
Right.
willing to take that step, build that experience, and something where we're going to hopefully grow in the next 5 to 10 years, rather than
Right.
trying to take those quick steps of growth,
Yeah,
right?
you might lose some older fans but gain some new fans, having the game be more exciting now. I know stolen bases were up, you know, like they skyrocketed compared to last year. I don't know what
Mm.
exact percent it was. I was trying to think of it, but I don't remember. But that fact alone, right? And we saw that displayed a lot in the World Series because the Diamondbacks were a team that liked to steal a lot. But that fact alone, the game's more exciting when people steal, right? Of course it
Yeah,
is.
totally.
The bases being closer, that makes that possible. The games being shorter, you know, it decreases the likelihood that people are going to get bored. That viewers will, the attention span will not be there, right? But does that translate necessarily in the first year? Maybe not, right? And especially in a year when the two teams that end up making it were smaller market teams, right? They weren't from major cities, and that's not to um, say anything negative about either fan base. By the
No,
way,
no,
that's just a fact that they're two smaller market teams. Right? They're not based in big cities.
right.
Um, they're naturally bound to have smaller fan bases, but that doesn't mean they aren't good fan bases. But my point is, like, the fact that they're trying to improve their game at least means that you know maybe we will see improvements over the next few years, and that's maybe a bit of a personal take because I'm a baseball fan. But I do think we will see improvements in the next few years. But for now, it's just one of those things where they're gonna have to ride out the lows because this is, I mean, they're in a tough spot with the World Series being the viewest or the lowest viewed ever. That's,
Yeah.
I mean, not something that you would expect to see in a year where you tried to make the game more fun and it worked pretty well.
Mm.
Um, and that's proved in the attendance numbers because it was the highest since 2017
Wow.
across the league. But it, I guess it didn't translate digitally, at least for their championship, which should be, kind of the highest level of engagement that you're getting, you would think, right? You know,
Yeah.
most most fans of sports tend to watch the championship, regardless of who's playing.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I would watch the Champions League final no matter who's playing 'cause it's the Champions League final.
Exactly, right? So I guess they kind of have to look at those numbers and evaluate what they could have maybe done differently. And that's not an indictment on the league or the league office or anything like that. But
Mm.
maybe there needs to be some kind of new strategy for next season for the playoffs or marketing.
Maybe. And I think this is definitely a place they can build from. I don't think it's a bad thing, nor is it a bad experience. But this is something where the MLB is looking at itself, and it has been doing a lot of introspection in the recent years, as we've talked about today. And I think an area where it will grow from, because I know even as a neutral, I want to see a successful baseball because I know it's a staple of American culture, a staple of
Right.
what has been American sports for years, and something that's really important to a lot of people. So creating an opportunity for it to grow is going to be huge.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it will grow in the next few years. I mean, I hope so personally. And I know that whole segment, I that was probably way too like not information based compared to what we normally do, but I mean that is a major piece of news in the sports world. Unless you have anything on that, I'll let you introduce our next topic.
Yeah, sounds good. Um, so we're talking about the first ever NBA midseason tournament known as the NBA Cup, kind of similar to what the MLS did this year, doing the MLS Cup. We're going to build it into the regular season schedule. Tournament's going to go through November and end first week of December. Both college and NFL football going on. The NBA has a hard time staying relevant in the early part of the season. Do you think this will help the problem in terms of them competing with those individuals, Paul? What do you think?
I think it does. I definitely think it does because the games matter more, right?
Hmm.
It creates a whole new way for the NBA to market their product, right? You're literally creating a new trophy, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that fan bases can hold on to, right? Like you're gonna associate if your team wins that trophy, you're gonna be way more engaged with the product during the season, right? And it's gonna make regular season games matter way more, not just for the fans, but also for the players. That was one question to me that when I saw that this was happening, that I had was, do you think it'll incentivize the players to play harder during the regular season games, particularly in the early season games, like right now? The NBA just started like a week or two ago. So, do you think it incentivizes them to play harder because they're playing for more than they usually do?
Definitely possible, right? And I'm trying to think of it in terms of soccer. It's a bit different, right? When we have a midseason tournament, speaking in England, the FA Cup. But speaking towards this, right? And my question: does every team get in, or is it like you're chosen based on your position in the league at the time?
It basically the way the tournament works is there's 4 group stage games that'll be played on 7 November dates. So it's built into the regular season. It's four
Right.
Fridays. So it's the 3rd, the 10th, the 17th, and the 24th. There's
Okay.
three Tuesdays, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th.
Okay.
And the quarterfinals will be played December 4th and 5th,
Okay.
and the higher seed team, and the semifinals and championship game will be December 7th and 9th in Vegas. But the
Okay.
championship game doesn't count as a regular season game.
No. So
So the
the play-ins do, like the playoffs do, or the
yeah,
the
well,
tournament games would.
right, yeah. So every
Okay.
game except for the championship game doesn't count, or does count as a regular season game. Sorry.
Interesting.
Um,
So they're being substituted as for a regular season game.
yeah, right.
Okay.
They're
Which is
they're
really
building
smart.
the
I mean,
tournament
who's gonna work?
structure into the season, which I love that personally.
Yeah,
Right,
agreed.
that makes regular season games way more interesting as a fan than it would just be to turn on the Celtics on some random night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they're actually playing for like, oh, they can be in the quarterfinals if they win tonight, like that
Mm,
creates way more of an opportunity as a fan for something to latch onto, right? Um,
correct.
and honestly, for the NBA marketing department and for teams marketing departments, this is a dream come true because there's multiple different ways that you can, create um, engagement with this. Not only we're talking about the championship and how much like that banner or cup matters or whatever, but you're also talking about you know more clutch highlights, right? You're
Mm,
talking about different ways you can advertise, right? You can advertise this midseason tournament in a way that you didn't have before, right? You can create whole new ad campaigns, right? There's whole different strategies that you can go through that are now built into this regular season tournament, which I think is really cool. I think it'll create a lot of different opportunities for teams. Teams that make it past the group stage also play each other in the last 2 regular season games,
okay.
which I think is pretty cool
Yeah, definitely
because
a cool callback.
like not only does um not only does the midseason tournament affect the games now, it also affects the games later on in the season
Mm,
too, right? So it's not just creating engagement right now, it's creating across the whole season.
right, which makes a lot more sense. Um, I'll be interested to see kind of like what their team selection process is like because I'm guessing they're not doing a 32 and a 16 and a 8, right? I don't know if they're going from all the teams down to because like how many NBA teams are there? It's a good
Uh,
question, but and
I
I don't know
don't
for a
know.
fact. We don't need to know for a fact, right? But how they're going to break down the tournament just because I'm curious in terms of management wise. But no matter what and how they do
There's
it,
30 teams. I
okay,
see
30
that.
teams, right? So are we doing two teams are left out? I don't know. I don't even know if we're doing a tournament style. Are we breaking it down kind of like they do the
Right.
playoffs?
The
Um,
structure's the structure is definitely going to be interesting, and it's something
yeah,
they'll probably experiment with, right? If it
right,
doesn't like work this year, then they'll probably toy with it a little bit,
right.
and
Well,
tinker for next year.
essentially to answer your question, are they going to play harder? They playing harder is entirely reliant on is there a limited number of teams that make it into this, or does everybody make it into this? And then they're going to play harder for these set of games because they want to win that
Right.
trophy,
Well,
and
I
then
think
go and
the
rest again.
I think the group stages is what has every team in it, and then
Okay,
it gets down to the quarterfinals, semifinals, etc.
cool. And that makes sense, and I think it definitely is going to incentivize because they want to be competing for this trophy. Everybody's going to want to be the first recipient of it.
Right.
Everybody's going to want to win it. So it definitely incentivizes a lot of the midseason tournament, and also gives fans a reason to watch the games because there is a
100%.
genuine reward for a midseason game versus when they're playing 30 games or they're playing 82 games in the season, right? Or
Yeah.
81 games, right? Whatever
82.
it is. 82, okay. And they're playing those 82 games and games 30 to 64 really are kind of in that middle span where yeah, it's important that they win the game because we want to have them make playoffs, but if they lose the game, nah. Right?
Like it doesn't
If they
matter
can
in the
go in the
in the
next
grand
one,
scheme
they
of
can still
things.
make enough.
Right. Right, exactly. Um, what's interesting to me is the fact that this could create whole new stars for the
Yeah.
game, right? You know, when any type of playoffs comes around for any league, it creates new opportunities for people to break out and to become stars, and then your marketing team can take that and promote the hell out of it, right?
Mm.
So this is going to create another 3 weeks in which the NBA can develop new stars,
Yeah.
right? There's going to be stars of the midseason tournament and stars of the postseason tournament, right? And it's going to be two completely separate things that you can market in completely separate ways at completely separate times. And like, there's so many different possibilities that they can do. That must be super exciting to be working in those offices right now.
Oh, absolutely. And excellent take. Very true. Right. I would be psyched as a marketer if I have a kid who's going into the midseason performing really well, hasn't been really a staple name, but has the opportunity to build that and the opportunities that I'm going to have to market his performances in this tournament, especially like if a rookie gets MVP or a sophomore gets MVP and they haven't been the star
Right.
yet. Holy moly, they're a star now.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
It's an opportunity for young guys to break out.
No, it's beautiful. I am genuinely super excited for this. I think this is
Yeah,
going to
me
be
too.
awesome for the NBA. I think it's part of them building their history, right? Even though we're 75 plus years in, right? We're adding an extra layer, right? For the next however many years, this is going to build into part of the NBA, part of the NBA lore. This is how rivalries are built. This is how stories are made. This is how legends are made. This is how jerseys get retired, right? A
Super well said.
legendary run, right? So this is reading this. I'm psyched. I'm super excited to see what
Yeah,
happens, where it goes, and
I'm
kind of
definitely gonna watch more NBA games now because of this. Like
absolutely,
100%,
especially in the midseason, right?
a
I might
hundred
already
percent.
go and watch a postseason game between the Celtics and the Warriors
Yeah,
when they're
I know the
playing.
Celtics game was literally on in my room tonight. Like,
Yeah,
like I'm gonna pay attention more now because of that, and not just because the Celtics have a good team, but also because just because the format is so like it seems so cool. Um,
yeah,
you don't see it honestly in a lot of major American sports. Like the NFL doesn't have this. The MLB doesn't really have this. So, and I don't think
NHL
the
does not.
NHL. I was gonna say I don't think the NHL does either. So
There's
really, the only
Stanley Cup.
thing,
That's it.
Right. The only thing that you see it in is the MLS, and
Yeah,
that's relatively new. So
brand new
this is
this
kind
year.
of right, exactly. So this is kind of a new venture for at least for North American sports.
Mm.
In how is a midseason tournament going to perform? I think it's going to be a massive win for the NBA.
Agreed. If you look at the numbers from the MLS Cup, and although that is immensely influenced by the performance of Lionel Messi, right? You look at their performance and the numbers it got and the eyes it got on its league. I would say that is when their league kind of peaked for this year in terms of viewership,
Right.
and all that stuff. I think that it could be very similar for the NBA, right? If a
Yeah,
star like LeBron
100%.
James goes crazy, or a star like Victor Wembanyama steps onto the court and goes and wins it before the Antonio Spurs, holy moly,
Yeah.
the storylines that are going to be made, right? And
Yeah,
it
exactly.
is genuinely that awesome opportunity, and I'm so happy to see the NBA take this because if you look in other sports leagues, I'm gonna specifically reference soccer in Europe just because that's my forte, that's my
Yeah, no,
knowledge,
I get it. I get
right?
it.
If you look at Serie A, you look at Ligue 1, you look at the Premier League, you look at La Liga, you look at the Russian league, you look at the league in Croatia, right? Each country has a midseason tournament. England has two, plus a preseason tournament, right? Where a trophy is awarded and teams can win, quote unquote, the quadruple or the treble. And that's how a historic team is built, right? People in like people who are media people in soccer still talk about I think it's 1998-99 Manchester United team who went and won a treble, right? And they're going to be talking about for years the Manchester City team who just went and won a treble last year, right? It's
Right.
a historic type of thing that doesn't
It creates a
happen.
legacy.
Exactly, right? So now we're creating the opportunities. If a singular team goes and wins both the midseason tournament and the postseason tournament this year, that is the first ever NBA two piece, NBA
Yeah, and
double, whatever.
that would
That's
I mean,
huge.
I would imagine that'd be the first North American
Yeah,
two-peat ever.
absolutely.
Which, there's so many different possibilities off of that as well that, we could have a whole 10-minute conversation about that.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be a massive, massive win for the NBA. I can't wait to see how it plays out.
yeah, agreed,
Um,
agreed. It's super exciting.
unless you have anything else, I'm going to move us on to our sports quote of the weeks.
Yes, sir. Let's hit it.
By the way, I want to start doing that for like the segment. I just want to go.
I love
I
it.
just want to emphasize it more.
I love it.
Um, okay, so my sports quote of the week was sorry, that was a little too much.
No, that
In
was
this
great.
okay, good. This is a quote from Josh Dobbs. He just became the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings after getting traded there this week, and then he didn't start this game on Sunday, but their quarterback got injured, so he had to go in.
Mm,
And he said, in this league, there's never an excuse for your circumstance. I learned that from Pittsburgh Steelers coach Mike Tomlin. Usually people don't care about your circumstances. They just want to see you succeed given the circumstances you're given. So
mm.
to me, that was pretty powerful. I'm not going to lie, because that's kind of, you have to have that no excuses mentality, right? If like to get anything done in not just in sports as an athlete, but also to work in sports and in life, really, having that no excuses mentality will take you so far because it will push you to be your very best.
Mm. Well said and totally agreed, right? There are no excuses. You're going to show up every day and you have to give your all, right? No matter what has happened, right? You are expected to be the best that you can be in every situation that you come into and
Right.
encourage those you work with to be the best they can be in every situation they
Right.
come into, right? We're going to hold
And
each other accountable to that.
yeah, right. And of course, we recognize that everybody faces adversity, but it's, how you overcome that adversity and how you grow from that adversity that really defines um, kind of really how you are as a person, not even just how you are as
Mm.
an athlete or how you are as a professional.
Oh, agreed. And thinking about the stories that we love in sports, we love a Cinderella story. We love a story of a team or a group of people that come back from a situation that's heartbreaking. And through adversity and through trial and tribulation and through tears and smiles and joy and hurt and hearts broken, go and succeed. right? It's the story, and I was thinking about this. It's the story of despite, right? Despite my
Right.
inability, despite the
Right.
obstacle, despite my team being poor, despite not
Everybody
having
loves a good
the money that other
comeback
teams
story.
might have, despite not having the largest market, despite right and being able to overcome and go through that trial or go
Yeah.
through that difficulty. And
Everybody loves a good underdog, good comeback. It's
exactly,
one of
but
the,
that's
it's
the
one of the
stories as
best.
well.
Right. Yeah. It's one of the best stories in sports. And I thought that was just a really powerful quote. And, that
Absolutely.
can, I hope that inspires people, not only professionals looking to work in the industry we're looking to work in, but also, young athletes too, like that you can overcome adversity if you
Mm.
have that type of mentality. Um, so
Amen.
unless you have anything else on that, let's go to yours.
Yeah, the power of despite is huge. My sports quote of the week, sharing about, kind of talking about a little bit about the ooh, San Francisco Sharks. I don't know.
I
That
can
sounds right. We're
feel
talking about the
I
a
feel
little
the
bit about the
San Diego.
NHL. The Sharks are 0-10-1. Um, one of their players said this past week. I don't think
San Jose.
San
I knew
Jose.
it was one
Thank
of the
you. The
I
San
knew it was
Jose
one of the
Sharks.
Sands.
The San Jose Sharks, who are now fell to 0-10-1, matching the 11-game winless start by the New York Rangers in 1943 and the Coyotes in 2017 and 2021, which was, I guess you'd say, probably one of the worst performing, some of the worst performing teams in NHL history, right?
Right.
And one of their players had to say this: I don't think we like where we are early in the season. Russ said, "Don't like our record, don't like some of the results, so we knew that we had to come out here tonight, try and get the win." Right?
Right.
Again, kind of talking about the story of despite, right? We're here despite losing every game. We're here despite not winning. We're here despite that. We're going to give our all on the ice because we want that. We want our organization to succeed. We want to show that success, right? And that
Right.
takes a lot of heart, takes a lot of guts, takes a lot of brains, takes a lot of emotional strength and power, right? So despite losing, I really hope that the Sharks continue to show up, continue to show their all, even if it's a bad performance, got to keep showing up on the ice, got to keep giving
Right.
it all. And hopefully, when they do get that win, it's going to be a big deal. And I'm going to
Right.
tie this into a really weird tie-in, but sports
I have a really
finance.
weird tie-in too. So
All right,
go
awesome,
ahead.
awesome. So we'll link it. Sports finance, right? I have been horrible all year. I am currently 0-7, right, going into this week. Now, despite my failure, I've not given up on my team. I believe in the boys, right? I traded Chris Olay. That's the only person I've traded. Rashid Shaheed on the team every week, okay? Believe in the man, right? Despite the incapability, I'm supposed to get my first win this week. It took me 3 to 4 weeks to break 100 points for my team. And maybe it's just because I'm learning fantasy, or maybe it's because I'm just getting lucky, right? I'm now supposed to break 130 tonight, right? Which is huge. That's a big improvement, a lot of lessons learned. But I didn't give up on my team. I didn't give up on my franchise, my organization, the things that I invested in, the players I invested in, and the opportunities that I created because I have lost every game. No, I'm still going to show up.
Right.
I'm still going to go to that class. I'm still not going to be discouraged. I'm still going to go and say, all right, I'm going to make my roster. I'm going to set it up. I'm going to put myself in a situation where I think I can succeed as a group, right? And I'm going to go
Yeah.
and say, and by the way, my grade is not dependent on my team winning or anything like that. It's totally based on the financials, which I'm in the positive, so I'm thriving, right? But again, the story of despite, right? We're willing to show up again, willing to challenge ourselves, willing to go and say, despite this incapability of my team to go and win a game, I'm still going to be a successful franchise. I'm still going to show up and
Right.
give it my all. I'm still going to go and write my 50-page paper with heart and desire and expressing the mission and
Yeah.
vision that I've set for my team.
Right. It's that can't give up mentality, right? It's
Yeah,
that
exactly.
that never quit. And I so my tie-in's also going to be a little bit weird, but I'm gonna tie this into working in sports. So, if you're trying to get into the industry and you just can't you can't find an internship, you can't find an in,
Mm,
maybe you're messaging a ton of people on LinkedIn, they're not getting back to you, emailing a bunch of people, and it's just not working out. Maybe you have a bad interview, have 2 or 3 bad interviews, and you get rejected from a job. That doesn't mean you should give up on your dream. and
Mm,
say I'm done working in sports just because you failed. The point of failing is to grow from it and to get better. So you fail and you fail and you fail until you succeed.
well said. Well said. The story of failure, learning from it, despite the story of despite is huge. Something I've been dwelling on for like a month or so. October is
Me
always
too,
my
man.
roughest month of the year,
Me
so
too,
I'm
man.
sitting
we're
there out of the
we're
shower. And I'm
both
like, the story of despite.
Yeah, we're both trying to find internships right now. So if anybody out there is interested, we're both free. So give us a shout. Um, Email us on our website, which is now up. If any of you want to go check that out. Um, all right, man. I think that's about it for me, unless you have anything else.
No, just as always, thank you to all those listening. Thank you to those that are reaching out to us and the connections we're making and the stories we're able to tell. It's been an honor. It's always hard work, and
Absolutely,
we love it. I appreciate you, Paul. Um,
absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for doing this, man. Like, you being willing to be flexible with your schedule and stuff has been awesome.
dude, you're being
Uh,
flexible with me. I got so few times, but
I
we're
mean,
making it work, and it's beautiful.
yeah, I mean, at least we're out here grinding, right? We're doing something. We're out here recording at 11 o'clock on a Monday night. At least I have an 8 a.m. tomorrow. I don't know about you, but a lot of
I got a
people.
9 a.m. lift.
Yeah. So yeah, right. So it's definitely been super fun. And if you want to see, if any of the viewers out there want to go see the fun times we're having, go check us out on Instagram SBT_podcast, TikTok SBT.pod23, and Twitter SBT_pod23. I believe, I'm not sure I have that one right, but uh, whatever, it's fine. And I guess have a good week, guys. We'll see you next week. Hopefully we'll be back with a guest next episode.
Absolutely,
We'll try to make that happen.
we definitely can.
All right, guys. Have a good week.